Rev up your engines! An overheating Nissan. The engine's overheating. Customer brought it over here after taking it to other mechanics. One, you never know what anybody's actually done. They told her this, that, and everything else, but you gotta start out with the basics. Now, numero uno, this is a brand new radiator. She told me they paid to put a radiator on this thing, but it didn't solve the problem. And right away I can see the radiator's low. You can see the cooling fins and there's no coolant in them. They told her, oh, probably needs a thermostat now. Well, it's low on coolant. A thermostat opens and closes, but generally is going to make it low on coolant. So I really kind of wonder about that. And I noticed the check engine light's on, so I'm going to test that first. Plug in a scan tool, turn the key on and see what it says. It's reading codes. Got a whole bunch of codes. Let's see what it says. The engine's running too hot. Knock sensor. Driver airbag module. Now, knock sensors on these V6 Nissans go bad all the time, but they're a royal pain to change. You got to take off the intake manifold. And that generally isn't going to make an engine overheat. The only code that had to do with the engine overheating is the one that says the engine's overheating. We already know that. So I'm going to do a block leak check on this. Often some fool will change the radiator when actually the engine is the problem. And fixing the radiator, replacing it with a new one like this doesn't fix anything if the engine is blowing the head gasket. It's a simple test. We get the test fluid, start the car, put the test tube over the radiator hole, and take off the top. Duck on there, we'll have to pull it off. That's a job. Take it off. Pour it in and stick the top back on and do some suction. Now if this dark blue liquid turns color, green or bright yellow, means the head gasket of the engine's leaking. And as you can see, it's turned yellow. Quite a difference in color. Now this doesn't surprise me because the engine has 266,791 miles on it. And as I sit here, rev it up a little, comes down, I can feel it rumbling. It just doesn't feel right to begin with. And it costs a fortune to do a head gasket job, and who knows, a lot of corrosion, maybe the head's corrosion inside. It's really not worth the money on this thing to take the engine apart and attempt to fix it mechanically. Now the customers decided to let me remove the thermostat and try some sealer. Because if you put sealer in with the thermostat, it'll often make it stick shut, then it'll really overheat. So we're going to remove the thermostat, put in some sealer, and pray it lasts. So take the air filter out of the way. We'll look down here. This thermostat's right inside here. We just take the bolts off and we'll get it out. So we unbolt the thermostat. And here it is. We'll just cut the old thermostat out so it can't get stuck. Then we'll put a little of this 3M sealer all over and stick the gasket over it. Now I use this 3M weather strip and gasket sealer for two reasons. One, I don't want it slipping when I put it in. There's no working room. So I'm gonna let it sit for half an hour while it dries. Then I'm gonna put sealer on the outside and bolt the whole thing in. That way it'll be sealed, not leak. I've had tons of them in the past leak. If I didn't use sealer to hold it in place, they'd go in cockeyed, you get a leak, and then you'd be screaming mad when you filled it up. Then we bolt the thermostat housing back in. Get all the 3 bolts in and slip the hose back on. Then slide the clamp on using pliers. Then the clamp's on nice and tight. You don't want that falling off. Then we'll put the air filter back on and tighten it up. You don't want any air leaks. Then hopefully comes a miracle in a can. The Bars head gasket sealer. You just pour it in. The whole can. Then pour the coolant in that came out. Then we'll start her up and pray the sealer works. Now what you want to do now is let it idle about half an hour, shut it off, the sealer can do its thing, let it sit for a couple hours, and then basically drive it around and see what happens. Well, so far it's held up, only time's going to tell on that, but now you know what to do if your engine is overheating, even though you've already replaced the radiator and that didn't fix the problem in the first place. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.